Hello, my fellow Ethereans, and welcome back to the She-Ra Princess of Power Comprehensive Review Series. In this episode, episode 15, we'll be covering Swiftwind. Swiftwind is She-Ra's loyal flying steed. He is an alicorn, or a winged unicorn. His alter ego is Spirit. Swiftwind was released in the 1985 wave. That's the first wave of Princess of Power. He is the Princess of Power equivalent to He-Man's Battle Cat. According to Justine Dantzer, who is the primary creator of the Princess of Power characters, particularly in the first wave, Swiftwind got his start in preliminary drawings that she did in 1982 when she worked at Kenner. Justine Dantzer did have a brief stint at Mattel before she worked at Kenner. She was an intern, but that position didn't last long, and she ended up doing some freelance, and then she ended up working at Kenner. And she was there for a good 2 years based on her interview. And she would return to Mattel in 1984, mainly based on her portfolio. She was doing some awesome work at Kenner. She is given credit for creating the Care Bear toy line while she was at Kenner. She also worked on the Superpowers collection toy line during her tenure at Kenner. And while working on the Superpowers toy line, she did some preliminary concept work for a spin-off line for Wonder Woman, Supergirl, and Lois Lane. None of those concepts made it, unfortunately, but those pieces were in her portfolio when she returned to Mattel. And that is what won her the position of being the primary Princess of Power toy line designer. According to Justine Dantzer, She-Ra Steed was originally going to be a majestic white stag named Noble. Noble was considered too edgy for girls and was dropped. During her time at Kenner, she had also drawn a Pegasus, and that Pegasus would be resurrected at Mattel. It was rejected at Kenner. There was some time that Dantzer had that she worked on some new concepts at Kenner, and a lot of those concepts would get rejected. And one of the concepts was a female superhero character, as well as a Pegasus. The female superhero, according to Justine Dantzer, was named Andromeda, and she was able to summon her Pegasus. And both of these concepts were rejected and dropped, and Justine Dantzer was able to resurrect the Pegasus concept at Mattel, and that concept would evolve into Swiftwind. What had happened was Noble was rejected on the first pass of designs. Justine Dantzer did a first pass of designs for many of those first wave of Princess of Power characters. She-Ra herself initially started off with designs based on Teela, because the Princess of Power toy line started because of the awesome Teela sales. So everything started from preliminary artwork that basically feminized Teela more than what she was. And those designs were rejected because they were too Teela-ish. Along with other designs that Justine did. She did designs for Bo, she did designs for Glimmer and Angela, who at the time were one character. And those designs were passable enough to get to a second wave of designs where She-Ra was redesigned and looked a lot more like her final product. Swiftwind was brought in to be her steed. The White Stag Noble was rejected and turned away, and other characters were refined as the second pass of designs went along. Obviously, based on the drawings of the Pegasus, Swiftwind changed very little from his introductory concept to final toy. Based on the prototype video as seen on He-Man.org, Swiftwind's colors were at one point very much like his colors on the cartoon series. Because of the need to feminize the toy, the blues were stripped away and the pinks were amped up. Filmation settled on the colors as seen in that prototype video. Mattel would move further with the pink and gold colors based on testing. Because of this disparate design approach, there are essentially three major designs that we have for Swiftwind. So we have the toy design, we have the cartoon design, and we have the hybrid of the two. Swiftwind's mold would be used for a total of 8 toys, including his own. 3 Swiftwinds, that's the original first wave Swiftwind, the second wave was Crystal Swiftwind, and the third wave was Royal Swiftwind. 2 Storms for Catra, 1 Arrow for Bow, 1 Crystal Sun Dancer for Sweet Bee, and 1 Crystal Moonbeam for Peekaboo. Swiftwind's variants got a varying degree of explanation in the toy line's continuity. The 1986 Crystal Swiftwind got its story explanation as Adora and Spirit crossed over to Crystal World. Spirit's physical contact with Crystal World changed him into Crystal. He was like the other Crystal Pegasi that inhabited that world. The Royal variant that was released in the final year of 1987 gets no story explanation, and we never see how Swifty loses his crystal form. Being She-Ra in Adora's loyal and bonded steed, Swiftwind appears in just about every form of media that She-Ra appears in. He debuts in the very first mini-comic, The Story of She-Ra, where he possesses the ability to speak and flies She-Ra to adventures upon their transformation. He can also be found in the Golden and Ladybird books, UK comics, and the She-Ra magazine. He's in puzzles, coloring books, video games, and other collectibles. Swiftwind was featured in 65 out of the 93 episodes of the original She-Ra series. He also appeared in the Christmas special. He is voiced by Lou Scheimer and is introduced in the original film miniseries Secret of the Sword. In the show, he gains the power of speech when he is transformed for the first time. He has great strength and is able to pull a moon. He can fly at super speeds and can telepathically communicate with She-Ra and other unicorns and Pegasi. In the episode Unicorn Island, it is revealed that Swiftwind's status as an alicorn is not unique. The entire island's population is alicorns. What makes Swiftwind unique is his special powers. This episode, and more so its sequel, the episode Swiftwind's Baby, reveal that Swifty has a life away from Adora and She-Ra. This would explain his absence in other episodes. Swiftwind spends enough time away from the Whispering Woods and Bright Moon to develop a relationship and have an offspring with the alicorn named Starwind. This is shown in the last episode of the series, again titled Swifty's Baby. This is vintage Swiftwind, released in 1985. There's not much going on as far as articulation for this toy. His legs do not have any articulation. He's pretty statuesque. His mask is removable, and his wings are removable, and I'll show you some pictures of Swiftwind or Spirit without his wings. This toy, again, would be used to create Bo, Catra, and Sweet Bee and Peekaboo Steeds. The mold got some great use in the toy line, and it's pretty much the same exact toy replicated for every other Steed that's in the toy line. The major changes that occur with the other toys is how the saddle is strapped on. Later versions of the saddle have the strap that has more of an angular strap going around the belly there. I've noticed, or I've heard, that on many of the toys, the plastic in the wings gets pretty sticky. I've been lucky enough to not have that issue here. I do, unfortunately, have some yellowing that has occurred with the toy over time. But other than that, this toy's made it through the years without much damage, and is one of the proud pieces in my collection. I do not, unfortunately, have the reins that typically come with Swiftwind. He came with the mask, he came with the wings in the saddle, and he also came with the reins. And he got 3 variants. I talked about that before. The different variants came with different accessories, and that is Swiftwind. Masters of the Universe Classic Swiftwind was released in 2011, and he looks like he jumped right out of the cartoon series. This mold is based right on that design. The only issue that I have with this mold is that we unfortunately can't do a full conversion from Swiftwind to Spirit. The collar that Swiftwind comes with here is not removable. So you can remove the mask, you can remove the saddle, you can remove the wings, but you cannot remove the collar piece here. And another issue is when you remove the wings, you've got these gaping holes above his legs there. So as close as you can get to creating Spirit, there are some pieces missing that would take the design home. Spirit has a little gold crest piece that rests on his forehead that is just absent from this toy. So you really can't do a proper Spirit with this toy. This Swiftwind is articulated at the neck there. At the head, he's able to move at I would say that's the shoulder. He's got a knee and he's got an ankle. And that goes for the back legs as well. So you can get him in all sorts of interesting poses. His wings are articulated. And his tail is articulated. This mold went on to be used for Bow's horse arrow, and unfortunately we couldn't get any more uses of the mold before the toy line was finished at Mattel. We are still getting Masters of the Universe Classics toys through a new toy company named Super 7, but Super 7 is having issues with getting access to those original molds that Mattel used. So the likeliness of us seeing more horses, say like Storm or the Crystal horses, Crystal Moonbeam and Crystal Sundancer, the likeliness of seeing those rendered as toys in the Masters of the Universe Classics line at this point is very slim. But there's always hope. So that is my review of Swiftwind, the loyal steed of She-Ra. Join me next time, and I will be reviewing the Crystal Castle. That one has the potential to be a doozy, but we'll see how we do. And until then, ta-ta for now.